Apple's foldable iPhone just had its biggest week of leaks yet. And honestly, it's a lot to sort through. We got dummy models, conflicting reports about whether this thing is even going to be launching on time, a possible name change, and details about what's actually going on kind of behind the scenes. So let's try to break it all down. Now, starting with the big news, leaker Sonny Dixon shared the first images of dummy models for what we're currently calling the iPhone Fold, but that will change shortly, and I'll get to that in a second, alongside the iPhone 18 Pro and 18 Pro Max, which I just made a video on the 18 Pro. You can check it out up here. And the look of the 18 Pro models are pretty much what you would expect. They look a lot like the current phones now, maybe with a slightly smaller dynamic island, but the foldable, that thing is obviously totally different. It has this passport-style form factor that is unlike anything that Apple has ever shipped. We're talking a book-style foldable with a horizontal dual-camera array on the back and volume buttons on the top of the device, which is also a pretty unusual placement. Some of the design details are very interesting as well. Unlike the 18 Pro, the foldable doesn't appear to have a unibody design with a glass window on the back for wireless charging. Instead, the whole rear panel looks like it could be all glass, similar to the iPhone Air. The camera bump also doesn't stretch across the full width of the back. It only goes about 3/4 of the way, which is also kind of strange. And while the dummy models do look a lot like those 3D printed mock-ups that were kind of going around everywhere, there are clearly some differences in things that we haven't seen before. Now, for the specs, based on everything we know, the foldable iPhone is expected to have roughly a 5.5-inch outer display when it's closed and a larger 7.8-inch display when it's unfolded. Apple is going with a 4:3 aspect ratio so that when you open it up, it's going to feel a lot more like an iPad, maybe an iPad mini, more so than a typical smartphone. That means it'll be wider and shorter than foldables from Samsung and other competitors. It should also be impressively thin at around 4.5 millimeters when open, but that ultra-thin design comes with a few trade-offs. There's no room for a triple lens camera system, apparently, so you're not getting the telephoto lens, allegedly. I mean, Apple traditionally only goes wide and ultra-wide when it comes to its 2 camera arrays. And apparently Face ID also doesn't fit because the True Depth sensor is too thick for this form factor. And instead, Apple is reportedly going with Touch ID built into the side button, which is similar to what we have seen on the iPad Air and the iPad Mini. I do have reservations about this. Other foldables, Samsung, Google, they've also put a power button, side button style fingerprint sensor, and I don't love it, but we'll see what Apple does here. Apple's also said to be focused on minimizing the display crease, reportedly achieving a nearly invisible fold down the middle, which sounds different than the no crease at all rumors that we've heard in the past. Now, here's where things also get interesting and honestly a little confusing. On the naming front, Chinese leaker Digital Chat Station claimed on Weibo that Apple might not call this the iPhone Fold at all, which is good because I don't like that name, but instead it's going to be using the iPhone Ultra name that we've heard in the past. This does make sense given that Apple's been kind of pushing the Ultra brand a little bit. We have the Apple Watch Ultra, CarPlay Ultra, and their top-end chips for Apple Silicon are Ultra. So right now we have the M5 Ultra. No, we don't even have an M5 Ultra yet. We probably will get one, though, at some point. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman even reported back in March that Apple's considering the Ultra branding for an OLED touchscreen MacBook Pro that's reportedly coming later this year. I guess it would just be called a MacBook Ultra at that point, not the Pro. But yeah, I mean, this branding makes sense if it's going across multiple product lineups. The expected price supports that, too, considering that it's going to be anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 just for the base model, according to rumors. But the really messy part of this week's news is the timeline situation. We got 2 completely contradicting reports here. First, we got some report that was saying that Apple has hit more engineering problems than expected during the verification testing phase. And sources were saying that issues were complex and taking longer to resolve than anticipated. And one source said that April through early May is an extremely critical period for the engineering verification test, and that the current solutions aren't enough to completely resolve the challenges. Component suppliers have apparently been told that production schedules may need to be pushed back. In a worst-case scenario, it warned that first shipments could be delayed by months, potentially pushing the launch well into 2027. There's also the matter of this Hinge material. Leaker Fixed Focus Digital claimed that Apple is still deciding between liquid metal, which could reduce creasing and improve durability, or a 3D printed titanium alloy. That decision reportedly won't be finalized until the production validation test phase in July or early August. On top of that, there are also apparently unresolved pricing negotiations with Apple's assembly partner that could further complicate things. But then, just hours later, right after that report, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman came out and said that that report is way off base. And according to Gurman, Apple's foldable iPhone development is progressing smoothly and the device is still set to launch during the standard September iPhone timeframe. He says it will go on sale around the same time or soon after the iPhone 18 Pro models. That said, Gurman did note that the display's intricate design could limit supply, which lines up with what analyst Ming-Chi Kuo said back in December about potential shortages extending into 2027. And Gurman has also acknowledged that Apple plans could still change and the timing isn't final, which kind of covers him a little bit here, but hopefully Gurman's right and this thing is on track still. Meanwhile, on the production side, we know that Foxconn has already started trial production on the foldable. This was reported by Chinese leaker Instant Digital. And trial production is the step that comes before mass production, so this is huge, which Apple is currently planning to start in July if everything goes well during testing. The fact that all of this is transpiring and underway and that dummy models are already out in the wild tells us that Apple is moving through its standard pre-launch process. More people at partner factories now have access to the device, which is why we're seeing this sudden flood of leaks, and also probably why we're getting such mixed signals about the whole timeline. So where does all of this leave us? Honestly, still kind of unclear, but the most likely scenario is that Apple seems to be on track in announcing the foldable iPhone alongside the 18 Pro at their usual September event. But the actual launch of the foldable could be a little bit later, maybe October or November, which isn't unusual. We've had a staggered approach. They use this with the iPhone 10, so supply will certainly be limited. So you're definitely going to want to get your pre-orders in if and when it's announced. This is easily the most interesting iPhone that Apple has ever worked on. It's the most different. Obviously, it's a completely different form factor. So we're going to have a lot of streams of rumors and leaks between now and launch day. So be sure to stay locked into macrumors.com and this YouTube channel so you don't miss all of that information. Of course, if you like this video, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think about the iPhone Fold or the iPhone Ultra, whatever we're going to be calling this thing here soon. Let me know if you're planning on buying one in the comments down below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you around in the next video.